Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mari Caballero, and on behalf of the Beautification Committee, I call this meeting to order this Wednesday, July 24th at 5:34. Let us begin with item 1, roll call. Mari Caballero? Here. Richard Carranza?
Here.
Romeo Robles?
Here.
Olivia Ramirez?
Here.
Frank Santana? Okay. Thank you, Maricruz. Do I have a motion on the floor to excuse Mr. Santana? He did let us know last month that he and his family were going to be out on vacation from, believe it was July 16th through July 30th.
I so move.
Okay, so Mr. Carranza moves. Do we have a second on the floor?
I'll second.
Okay. We have Ms. Olivia Ramirez seconding, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it, the motion passes. We're going to go on and take a moment to have an invocation. That is item 1B. Let us be still for a moment. Open up our hearts and silence our minds of all the outside world that might be knocking and taking us away from this mindful moment with you, dear Lord. We want to praise and thank you for the opportunity to have another day to serve you, for all the graces, all the blessings that you give us today. Thank you. We ask that as we sit here together, humbly as a committee of volunteers, serving our community of Pharr, that we do your will that is best for the citizens, that we come to an agreement and we move forward with the beautification efforts of our city. In this we pray, amen.
Amen.
We go on to item 2A, the approval of minutes for June 4th, 2019. If you've had a moment, I'll give you another chance to look at
Yeah,
it. Or
I've
have
looked
you-
at them.
Do you have a copy of them? Okay. Whenever you're done, just let me know. And I'll need a motion on the floor to approve the minutes. Okay, so at this time, I need a motion on the floor to accept the minutes of June 4th, 2019.
Madam Chairman, I so move.
Okay, we've got Mr. Robles moving. We need a second on the floor, please.
I so second.
Okay, Mr. Carranza seconds the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, being that everyone's in favor, the motion passes. Thank you. We move on to item 2B, which is the overview and recap of our Keep Texas Beautiful State Conference that was in Rockwall, Texas in mid-June. Mr. Recano, would you like to start with that, or do you want me to begin?
Good afternoon, board members, ladies, gentlemen. For the record, my name is Reynaldo Cano. I am the Public Works Assistant Director. Recently, we attended a beautification, or I'm sorry, the Keep Texas Beautiful conference. And some of the items that, I guess the sessions that we attended were, we would meet downstairs and we would each go to different sessions so we can bring back the information to the board. One of the sessions that we had was the intro. Well, I attended the first one, which was the intro to Keep Texas Beautiful. That one was like an introduction to the KTB, an overview of the how to keep the Texas Beautiful program, and tips of how to build a sustainable, productive affiliate. That was one of the sessions that we had. Another session that I attended to was the Litter Free for the Trash Free Texas, which brought us like prevention for tools and strategies, the mapping tools for connecting the volunteers with other sites to adopt that are adopted here in our community. Another session that I had the pleasure of attending was also the program for Adopt a Highway program. Those also gave us tips on how to start and adopt a highway program and the benefits that it'll be for our community. Now that I'm on this subject right here, we have someone that is interested in participating in this Adopt a Highway program, which is Topgolf. We recently had a meeting with Topgolf, I believe last week, and we spoke also with the Parks and Rec to try and get some of these ideas that we learned there at this conference, which were, again, to educate the public as far as the recycling and the beautification and cleanup of our city. One thing is we got Parks and Rec involved to where we can give them a class or educate them to where if we do an event, we can have a certain booth or a table where we can have recycling bins and educate the public at the same time and tell them this is what you can recycle, this is what you can't recycle, and this is considered as trash. Another thing that we discussed was with Topgolf was the Adopt a Highway program. They're very much interested. I did get in contact, or I'm trying to get in contact with TxDOT, with a Miss Jennifer Beltran, who is in charge of the Adopt a Highway program. At the moment, she is out on vacation, so she has not been able to return my call. This is so we can get in contact with them so they can give us a map of which highways can be adopted, and then that we can go forth and give them the information as far as how much it's gonna cost them to put a sign on these highways. So they'll have like an advertisement or their logo saying Topgolf, Adopt a Highway program, and they'll have that little stretch of highway. We can assist them as far as doing like traffic control, assisting them with support vehicles, with water, whatever it may they may need for cleaning up that program. They can either organize with us when we do our OCS, which is our Operation Clean Sweep, or they can go out on their own, and again, we can assist them if they have a certain day that they want to do this. What they also have is our volunteers that are willing to participate during our OCS. They came out on this past weekend. Unfortunately, we didn't have the participation that we were anticipating as far as volunteers. We did have something like 18 to 20 that confirmed, but for some reason or another were unable to attend. But we did have 2 volunteers for that day, which was Topgolf. So we're looking into that. We're just waiting for a response from TxDOT so that way we can give them the information, and they're very much interested. We also have another program that's also interested in doing something like this, like Adopt a Highway program, which is the, I forgot the information that I have, but it's kids keeping Texas Clean, I believe. Again, this is educating the public and educating these individuals to what we have to offer. Another session that I also attended was the recycling education outreach and the best practices for engaging recyclers. The tips and tricks on how to best educate our residents on the recycling and how to do it properly. Again, that's something that we try to do as far as educating our public. Another session that I attended was a Small Rural Affiliates Roundtable, which helped us, I guess, for the volunteers, the retention, board management, funding, sponsorships, and how to tackle these obstacles, how to, the challenges and the issues that have come with it. That was for the KTB. It was a lot of information, very useful, and now I see from Ms. Caballero's eyes what she was talking about when it comes to this, because I know she would talk and mention about KTB, and it was like, it would just, pass me by.
We've all been educators at some point in our lives, right? Some of us more than others. But when I saw his light bulb turn on, he had his light bulb moment, he goes, now I get what you've been trying to tell us.
Okay.
And so it was like, okay. So, wow, yes, it was even, yeah.
It was a great experience because you got to network with other cities that also have these programs. It was very informative. I learned a lot, and a lot of little ideas that we can bring into our city that can help us out. That's for the KTV.
Mr. Cano, would you like to let Ms. Cindy Puente come up now and have her share her ideas? Because
I
I
have a
know
question.
oh, yes,
I have
before
a
you go back.
question,
Yes,
too.
go ahead.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Do we have any commitments from Topgolf as to how many people
For volunteers?
adopt a
When it's adopt a highway program, it's just a Topgolf. Now Topgolf has something like maybe 15 to 20 employees that are interested in participating.
Okay.
But the day that we had OCS, on that Friday, they had an event at their business. So it was kind of, and it lasted till like maybe 2:00 in the morning. So by the time, they get home,
And these are volunteers. And let me just add that Adopt a Highway, what we learned, because I was at that session as well, Adopt a Highway, there's only certain roads that TxDOT deems in our city of Pharr that are TxDOT right-of-ways. So we need to address which ones are they?
First.
Which ones are already adopted? Have they been maintained by those people, those companies or special groups, like maybe like a Rotary or whoever it may be, because it could be a company like Topgolf or someone else. And then determine, then of course we'll determine which roads are still available for adopting. Once they are adopted by Topgolf, a certain right-of-way, they need to do a cleanup. I think it's 4 times a year. It's quarterly, and all they have to do is show TxDOT documentation, just like anything else. And TxDOT will provide the sign, correct? And the signage. And it's good for us as a city of Pharr because it helps us beautify the city. It helps Topgolf in the positive advertisement, and it helps TxDOT keep their right-of-ways clean. So it's a partnership. And what Mr. Cano is saying, Public Works could provide Topgolf during their whatever quarterly cleanup is, that Public Works would make sure they connected and they stayed in connection with them, and they could provide the security vehicles, if you go to an OCS, you'll understand what we provide. We have trolleys that take the volunteers out to the designated areas that are going to be cleaned up. The volunteers are wearing bibs and they've got their equipment. But, you know, so Public Works wouldn't leave Topgolf out in the dark. They would provide the security, you know, make sure the traffic is mindful that there's volunteers out there cleaning the right of way and that they have what they need, maybe bottled water, the picks, the bags, whatever it is that Topgolf might need, you know, for that volunteer effort, right?
Okay.
So that's the partnership that he's saying that Public Works, City of Pharr could provide Topgolf. We just need the company, you know, we need the people, the group, the company. So, yes, sir.
My question is like, yes, are we connected to Texas Department of?
Oh, yes, they were there and
Transportation.
we have a
It will
local.
be working together.
Oh,
with it.
yes, yes.
Okay,
They're
now-
actually, they were there at the meeting. They were we were able to reach out and touch them and talk to them, and they gave us cards. And as a matter of fact, I'm proud to say there's a gentleman that takes his 2 sons to our OCS. He didn't come this past Saturday to Jones Box, but he has been to the one at Public Works, and he says he brings his 3 sons to Operation Clean Sweep regularly. So he works for TxDOT. I believe he's an engineer. He's in a different aspect, but he's to another connection.
Okay, now, you mentioned that there are certain streets and roads in the city that have been approved?
They're in other words, they're
Highways.
TxDOT right-of-ways.
Yes.
And so we need to determine which ones they are,
Mhm.
1. 2, have they been adopted by somebody already? And if that company A has adopted it, have they followed up and kept their commitment?
Okay, so if there's a neighborhood street,
No, it has to be a Texas Department of Public
Okay,
Safety
that's what-
right-of-way
okay.
in order to be cleaned by
What's the
that. by-
length? Do we know?
2 miles.
Two
Usually they're
miles.
2
2
miles.
Okay,
2
thank
miles.
you.
Yeah. So that was one important point that as a group that attended, we met later and we recapped the conference, and that was something that we realized they're in our backyard,
Mhm.
and that's a resource we can tap into and we can help each other.
Right.
And so, fortunately, Topgolf reached out to Public Works on OCS, and Mr. Gano thought, I'm gonna ask them if they can help us with our Adopt a Highway as well, which is perfect, that, you know, to establish that. So that was amazing, so thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Gano?
But-
He'll be back up for Public Works later, but is there anything
Now, are we
else?
talking about groups like high
Well,
school
you're
groups or
talking
something like
about
that? Okay.
Rotary, it could be Rotary, it could be the Knights of Columbus from St.
Lions
Anne's,
Club,
it could be the
any
Lions Club, it could
Okay.
be,
business.
it could be the Woodsmen of the World, it could be the FFA of Southwest High School, it could be
Okay.
a community group, a social group, it could be a business, it could be a group, you know, the Winter Texans from, one of the parks.
Brook Ridge.
So this project definitely has high potential
Oh,
for
yes, sir.
success.
Yes, sir. And that's kind of,
Definitely.
what I took away last year and this year was, there's so many ideas
Yeah.
floating around. And you got that. And it is overwhelming. You have to kind of take a step back. But, and it's like Rome wasn't built in a day. But if you pick out certain, and then just try to,
Certainly.
tap into those and reach into those and try to maximize those. That's what we're doing. And when we saw that TxDOT, we all went to that one, and that was very interesting. Very interesting. So,
Okay.
anybody else? Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Cano, thank you. Ms. Puente, would you like to come up and share your thoughts? Yes, the book. Your thoughts, what you left away with. Yes.
For the record, I'm Cynthia Puente, Environmental Supervisor for Public Works. I did attend the KTB conference with Reynaldo Cano, Ms. Caballero, and Ms. Crystal Medina. And I know that Adopt a Highway was one of our bigger sessions that we seem very interested in because, again, to further expand on that, every highway that TxDOT has within our city can be eligible for that. If you haven't noticed, 495 is already adopted by the Lone Star National Bank. It's just a matter of partnering with them, and the purpose of that would be to incorporate it into the application for the GCAA award, because it helps you bump up your application for points. So what'll happen is if you start networking with all these groups within your community, because it's a community award, it'll help you to get a better score and hopefully win that GCAA. So along with going to the conference and all these opportunities that were offered, we actually got to review the top winners' applications. We couldn't take any pictures. It was just to kind of see how we go about winning it and what they're interested in seeing. And so they gave us a lot of tips. We did attend a roundtable session to see what it is that we can improve on when we apply. And one of the biggest thing is make sure to put numbers, and that you're working with your community, and it's just not the Keep Pharr Beautiful
Right.
committee doing everything, that you are working with these partners to make your city beautiful. So that's something that was, very informative. It was a very informative, eye-opening conference for us, and we understand where she was coming from. But I think the Adopt a Highway, we could always expand, and we have several different ideas as to how to expand not only our Keep Pharr Beautiful, but our recycling center and our public works, to incorporate everything and make sure that we apply for the GCAA next year.
So,
You open up your booklet and find those parameters. There's like 6, remember, in the award, or for the application. There's several tiers, several criteria that everything we do from now on should have our Keep Pharr, that's, again, I'll talk about Keep Pharr
Are
Beautiful.
you talking about the categories?
Or- the community, the there's 7 categories
Right.
that they score us on. Everything we do, we need to make sure that there's this nice
Yes.
network of all these things
everything working
blended in.
together. Now,
While she's looking for that, go ahead.
I am to assume that this award means a grant for us.
Yes, sir. And
Okay.
if you look if you understand grants, they want to see documentation, they want to see nice writing, they want to be sold, they want justification, and they want to see how clever you are in meeting the needs, those needs.
Okay,
those
so
needs.
the awards recognize achievement in 7 areas. It'll community leadership and coordination, public awareness, education, beautification and community improvement, litter prevention and cleanup, solid waste management, and litter law and illegal dumping enforcement. So those are the 7 categories. So we fall under, or those are the 7 areas that they kind of grade you on, and they ask you a series of questions, and you fill it out, and you provide, obviously, in the application, pictures of everything you've done throughout the year. It's just a matter of gathering all that information that we've already done, and then from here forward, expanding on it, because the application is going to open up, I believe, in January of 2020.
January 1st.
That'll open up, it'll only be available for a certain amount of time. So there is 10 categories to win a GCAA. It's based on population, and we fall under category 8, which would be a population between 65,000 to 90,000. And in our category, I believe Temple, Texas is the one who won. And in category 10, which we got to see their application, was Brownsville. And they won
How much did they win?
$310,000 for beautification projects. And that is, I believe, spread out from what our understanding is, it's spread out within the next 4 years. You continue applying in order to achieve a certain status within KTB as an affiliate. So for example, we are good standing, you have silver standing, gold standing, and you also have excellence. I believe, yes, excellence winners. So for example, we are currently in good standing. Our goal is to at least achieve silver and gold this year. That way, sustained excellence will be you apply every year, because you can only win the application once every 4 years, but you still have to, they still recommend that you apply to obtain the sustained excellence award, which means you apply and you score over 90 or better. You can't win it because you're still going through the 4 years that's how they disperse the money.
Yeah. Your grant is spread out, that amount is spread out over 4 years. So you
And
can't-
for category 8, I believe they won $270,000, if I'm not mistaken, for beautification projects within TxDOT right away.
And they help you with, the
Landscaping architects.
landscaping architect design work. If you don't have one in-house, you know, they'll help you with that, they'll help you, I mean, they'll give you direction. Like, for example, that's a perfect opportunity to enhance, I don't know if it's the right of way, but you know, how we wanna beautify our south entrance, you know? I don't know if it's a TxDOT right of way, but you know, that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of places we can do, work with, but, so this is the infamous grant that I was talking about last
Certainly.
year. And we got to visit. One of the things that I left away with is profoundly understanding that really, yeah, we're the Beautification Committee, and we understand that we're also an affiliate of Keep Pharr Beautiful, but in our networking that week, it's just a lot easier to just be Keep Pharr Beautiful. And I already, I'll go into that later. We did in one of the, you might have been at that one, I'm not sure, where there's keep City Beautiful, whatever it may be, like, Keep McAllen Beautiful is completely separate from the city. It is a 501c3. Then you have people like Brownsville that are, that they're a hybrid. We fall into the city. So we're completely all city, we're city, you know, anything we want to do is city funded. We're under the auspices of Public Works, which is under the city of Pharr. The city of Brownsville has a different makeup. It's a hybrid. It's a little bit of both. They're not quite a 501c3, but they do have a full-time employee, and they, you know, so we learned a lot. We learned a lot. And we made a lot of new friends, and hopefully they will help us in our effort this coming year to grow.
Yes. So we had a lot of networking, and we did partner with McAllen, and we're talking to McAllen and talking to Brownsville in regards to that, because I know Brownsville is the closest thing we could get to how our committee is right now. So Brownsville is a hybrid. They fall under a beautification committee, and that committee gives them a certain amount of funds, but it's run by the city. So, but it's a hybrid. So we're just trying to see the easiest way for us to make sure that we can accomplish everything and still apply for it and still have the opportunity to get those funds.
Cindy, correct me if I'm wrong, but they have an actual Keep Brownsville Beautiful under the wing of the
They have a
beautification committee, right?
They have like a youth advisory or a youth committee that they did partner with, and they've kind of have their own committee as well that falls under the
Brownsville
KBB,
Beautiful.
Keep Brownsville Beautiful. And they have their own subcommittee, as in, I believe it's high school students,
Mhm.
and they have their own committee, and they go out and do projects, and just with their assistance, and they incorporate all that into their GCA application as well.
So when Mr. Cano was talking about incorporating Parks and Recreation, he reached out to Parks and Recreation. They have what they call aides, recreation aides, those young men and women who work part-time in the recreation, in the high in the schools, doing the it's not after-school recreation, it's during the day, right? It's part of their summer program, summer recreation program. One of the ideas from seeing when these cities are announced at the evening event, the grand event, they highlighted, you know, them through a video, and Brownsville's video showcased the youth. Well, we have a lot of youth. If you go to our OCS, you see we have a lot of youth that are involved already, and there's a very easy way for us to incorporate those youth into some sort of core or some sort of group or committee or organization, kind of like a subgroup, right? The other thing is, you know, we have HubFest is a big city event that we have, and again, she read those 7 categories in which you're judged, or you know, there's criteria you have to meet. A lot of it is in education, and what we kept hearing is reducing You know, not just reusing, recycling, reducing, because they're having issues with our recyclers. They're no longer wanting to buy our recyclables. So what's the answer then? Reducing. But first of all, you know, the problem is just trying to get people to recycle, right? So we thought, well, at our public events, what if we got these young men and women, not only the ones that come to OCS, but how about like reaching out to our Parks and Rec, our aides, to come out and maybe be present at those public events, and we have recyclable bins. And maybe we just choose to collect just bottled water, used bottled water. You know, they sell bottled water all the time at our events. And make sure they're educating, hey, throw your empty bottle of water here. And we recycle those. Because those are plastics are what we pick up currently, correct? We don't pick up glass. We don't recycle glass. So educating, how do we expand what we're already doing? And that's the key. So that's where when he mentioned the young aides from Parks and Rec, that's what he meant, right? Anything else, Cindy?
No, not at this time. It was a very informative conference, very informative.
I know we want to go meet with the folks, the young lady from Brownsville,
Yes,
who wrote the grant,
correct.
and she has offered to meet with us at any time. We want to go and pick her brain and just figure out how they do it, because that's how we learn,
Yes.
right? And so we need to we've been busy.
We've been busy, but yes, we
We've been
will be
busy.
meeting with her.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So for the record, but did anybody have any questions for Ms. Fuente? Okay. So for the record, I just want to say that I sent myself and I sent my husband Ramiro Caballero, Commissioner Caballero. And even he broke off and went to sessions that he felt he was interested in learning, and I know that there was a point where I found Mr. Cano and Ramiro and the gentleman from Port Isabel also. They were having a big powwow on and they were trying to solve issues having to do with keeping our valley, making it better and keeping it clean, right? So I just I mean, these are my notes on my little iPad. Wow, it was very profound. The name of the conference was called Navigating a Changing Texas. And yes, times are changing. And there are people that are still trying to find innovative ways to promote, educate, on keeping our beautiful state clean and making it a better place to live. I think when we had hosted, my husband and I hosted the group that attended this conference to lunch at Topgolf, and one of the things that Ms. Crystal Medina said was that stayed on her mind was how awesome it was to be surrounded by people that thought the same, that had the same ideas and the same goals as far as, you get energized because everybody's on the same page.
Right.
And you're not the only one. You realize you're not the only ones struggling. You realize that there's a learning curve for everyone. Rome wasn't created in a day. I'll say that one more time. So yeah, it was quite an interesting event. I think does anyone have any questions at all? Anything at all? Gosh, I had a lot of things I wanted to say, but I don't want to take any more time. We were sent an email with access to the PowerPoints. So, did you ever get yours, Ms. Puente? I didn't. Okay. Mr. Cano, did you get yours? You didn't get yours. Okay. I got mine, so I'll forward them to you all and to you. And so to your leisure, you can check it out and take a look at it. It'll just be the PowerPoints, right? That's what you'll find in there. So we left with the idea of really capitalizing on the Adopt a Highway. We left with the importance of trying to incorporate the youth into our programming. We left with the importance of finalizing, for networking purposes, our name to keep Pharr beautiful. And I've already reached out to our city manager on that. What else? What am I missing? Oh, and we are going to network with our affiliates here, our local affiliates. Everyone's willing to help. Keep McAllen beautiful. Everybody's like, hey, just give us a call, we'll help you. And that's what we found that was very profound. Everybody was like, anything you need, let us know. Even at the state level, that's what we found. Okay. All right, if there's nothing else on that, thank you, Ms. Puente and Mr. Cano. All right, so, we'll move on to administrative item 2C, discussion and possible action on target goals from the KTB. Well, I guess we just, we just recapped that, right? Target goals, I just basically stated them, so. We move on to, item 2D, the Beautification Committee name change to keep Pharr beautiful. I have reached out to our city manager on the importance for networking purposes that we have a more distinctive name as Keep Pharr Beautiful, and he said he'd be willing to work with us on that. So I'm going to move on to item 2E, the downtown mural. I did have a small conversation with the mayor, and I believe he is really targeting the concrete wall that's around the
Little amphitheater
I keep
or whatever.
pointing this way as if it's really behind me, but it's probably not. It's
Yes, it is.
probably, is it?
No.
Okay. Okay. And I reached out to a couple of artists, and I know that one of them's not in the country. So I believe that summer we're just gonna have to wait and be patient for things to catch up. Mr. Carranza?
Yes.
Are you okay? You okay? Okay. So we're just gonna have to table that till we hear from them, and of course, we're gonna keep it as our historical and cultural to our area, right? Okay, we move on to item 2F. Administrative item 2F, status report on recommendations by Beautification Committee on South Pharr. Mr. Cano, did Mr. Pedraza have anything to add or share on the 3 recommendations by the Beautification Committee on South Pharr?
Yes, ma'am. I believe one of them was the truck route,
Yes, sir.
the signage for the truck route.
Mm-hmm.
I drove that truck route, and we do have signs already in place. They just need to be adjusted a little bit to where we have some on Dicker Road, or before you get to Dicker Road, southbound as you're coming out from the bridge. So we do have signs there already that say truck route, and then it has the arrow pointing to the direction so we can divert them before they come into town. We also have what we call like a Ghostbusters sign, where it has a truck and it's got the slash on it on the mast arms, and we also have them out on the side of the road before they come to that intersection. So they are in place. I don't know if we need to maybe additional signs or try and make them bigger to where they're a little more visible. But if the truck drivers are paying attention to the signs, they should be aware of, that they are not allowed to be coming in through town. The other signs are also as you're approaching Ridge Road, northbound, they're also in place. There is, I guess it's kind of redundant because we have one on the mast arm which is that Ghostbuster sign, and then you have another one right on the side of the road, so that one needs to be moved further to the south on that northbound lane. Again, to give them advance warning that they're not allowed to be coming in. I also noticed that there's signs on the southbound lane as soon as you're coming in from where the overpass is at, from 495. There's also signs there already in place, also warning the drivers that they're not supposed to be going through town. So the signs are there. It's just that the drivers either ignore it or they just don't see them, or by the time they get in through town, they're already committed to that, so they get pulled over.
No, and I would venture to say that they don't see them, because as a truck driver, that's one thing that you're looking for.
Yes.
I noticed a sign southbound before you get to Ridge. That's a yellow diagonal sign that's got a truck on it. It doesn't have a truck with a slash on it. Do you know what that means?
I need to take a look at it. And it's a yellow sign?
It's a yellow sign. If you're going south, before you get to Ridge, from here to Ridge, there's a sign there. And I said, well, that's odd, because yesterday I followed a truck that committed, but luckily he went all the way through town, and I stayed right on his bumper. I wasn't going to let a policeman get between us, and he made it all the way through town. So.
Wow.
Yeah, I believe they only have like 3 or 4 officers that stop commercial vehicles. So it's kind of hard for them to patrol, the area all the time.
Harder to see at night, too.
Yeah, and perhaps it's the visibility. You said they may need to be adjusted.
Yeah.
Bigger.
Maybe some flashing signs? I mean, like, and then perhaps too, sooner than right before Ridge, because they would have to turn westbound on Ridge to avoid downtown, correct? And if the sign is on the extreme right and Ridge is coming up, that truck may not have enough time to pull over
No,
to the left.
once you've committed to that
It's
right
tough.
lane, you're
It's tough for
Yeah.
them to get over.
And again, need to remember that the signs start all the way from where Dicker's at.
I'm gonna go look for those, because
So-
I guess I've missed them too.
Okay, and I'm just wondering, I mean, could they have flashing lights on them?
And
Is this something
today
that?
I was informed that those signs belong to TxDOT.
Right,
And I'm
and
sure
we-
they've got all kinds of regulations, because, I know the signs you're talking about, but not, it's more for a rural area where you've got to stop coming up, that people miss, things like that at an intersection.
Okay,
But I'm sure there's rules on those, but we can look into that.
okay,
So that's on the truck route. Another one was, I believe, the DRC sign.
yes, there's no
Uh,
signage on that
There's,
building.
yes, there's no signs. Again, I believe, I was informed that they don't have the funds to put the letterings on the DRC. And also, I think they were trying to get like a monument that was gonna be put also in front of the DRC. But again, they put the bids out, and I'm not sure if they're waiting for a response or they don't have the funds.
Okay, and who's they?
DRC, the library.
Yeah, so it's, they've got their own budget that they're working with?
Yes.
For their own signage?
Yes.
Okay. So the city doesn't put a sign like, I don't know, like you have something coming up. I mean, this is the DRC. I mean, not even on the street. Okay, I get it. I'm sorry, I'm just asking questions. Anybody else?
I believe the other one was,
I'm just confused.
the other one was the sign as you're coming from the bridge, that we were trying to get
Yes.
something on that, the northeast corner. There's a perfect spot there that something can be put there to like welcome the drivers coming into the city. Again, that's TxDOT, so we need to get in touch with them as far as to see if we can get permission from them to see if we can put something up there.
Okay. Perfect place to spend some landscaping money, grant money, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe those were the three items that
Yes,
were in
yes.
question.
Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions for? Okay.
Didn't she mention something about the post? What did she say?
There was
Is that the one he mentioned?
Mhm.
Okay.
So, Mr. Cano, will you get a hold of Tech Stop for us?
I will follow
And
up on it.
just see,
Yes.
what it is we can and cannot do with that corner
Yes,
until we win
I
that
will
money?
follow up on.
until we win that money. Because we will win that money someday.
That's
Be
the
very
attitude to
positive
take.
about
Yes,
that.
we
We're gonna
will.
win that grant.
We'll
Okay,
be up there
and
on
you
the
will.
stage accepting the reward.
Yes, yes, yes. And our city will be featured in a beautiful video for, yeah. Yes. Okay, so you'll get in touch. Anybody else have any questions for him? All right. Well, you want to stay there and continue with the status, we'll move on to the status report, item 2G on Public Works?
Sure, I guess, the status would mainly be, for our OCS.
Yes, yes, sir.
We recently had our OCS, this, past weekend.
Real quick, that date was changed from what we
Yes.
have here.
Yes.
It was changed, and you might just start with that.
The reason why the date was changed was we have like an tire incentive, is I believe called the Rio Grande. Yes.
Yes, here comes Miss Cindy
Yes,
Puente.
Cindy will be able to explain a little bit more about the tire incentive that we had.
And it had to be done.
Okay. Hi. Okay, so as far as the date change, it was to incorporate the road to recycling. It was a regional effort that was funded through LRGVDC to receive funds for any tires that we received on that day. We had a lot of, they did it prior. They do it every so often throughout the year. We've participated in it, but we didn't really receive funds because in our situation, we don't have all the resources that they require sometimes, and in this one, they allowed us to do something slightly different. So that's why, in order to meet the, in order to participate, we had to move our OCS forward, which was just a week to incorporate that. I know we have some tires that were recycled. We incorporated as well in our numbers June because our last meeting I believe was on June the 4th. If I'm not mistaken. So we've had 2 OCSs since then. So I wanted to incorporate those numbers just to kind of give you a rough idea of how many tires we've recycled within Public Works. The total amount of tires that we have received in June has been 1,442 tires that we recycled in a combination of OCS, resident drop-off, and as well as businesses. So I know that we always give an overview for OCS, but I kind of wanted to incorporate Public Works as well, just because it's not just OCS numbers that we deal with on a monthly basis. We also deal with a lot more tonnage and a lot more tires for that. In July as well, we have a total number recycled in 1,668. That is a combination of OCS, tire drop-off, and businesses as well. We are in the process of hopefully adjusting our ordinance for our tire ordinance to raise up our prices, just because everybody else, we are the lowest place to recycle, and we're seeing a higher volume, and we don't have sufficient staff for that. But we do have to raise the prices as of right now. We are currently not accepting semi-tires anymore until the ordinance gets modified and it's in the process. It's already gone through the first reading, but we do handle a lot of tires and we recycle a lot of tires. So just keep that in mind. OCS is not our only, that's not the only place we get tires from.
Yeah.
We also get waste, and the tonnage for OCS in June was 12.68, and in July it was 5.58. So I just want to kind of give you an overview of Public Works, not just the OCS in that aspect.
Ms. Puente, can you share with the committee the tire incentive, how it helped us?
The LRGVDC, it's called the Road to Recycling. I'm sorry, we had a tire incentive. That's a different program. But the Road to Recycling is LRGVDC will give funds to cities. They will pay for the containers in different cities, the way it works. And the reason we hadn't participated is because they have the ability, for example, San Juan has roll-offs, so they will give them a certain amount of funds to say you will recycle. LRGVDC will grant you a budget amount of 1,000, and depending on what they charged, the local recycler, which would be UTW, charges a certain amount. The city, LRGVDC will fund the disposal fee, but the city is still in charge of making sure that those tires get to UTW. And in our case, we just did not have the resources to pull off roll-offs on a Saturday. So for example, San Juan is able to put these roll-offs out there because they have their own sanitation. We do not. So it was always handled through roll-offs, and this time around we were able to work something with them to kind of get funds for those tires. So in essence, the city would be saving a certain amount, which anything over that we would pay the difference because we do have a contract with UTW for an enclosed trailer. LRGVDC just gave us a budgeted amount, so we kind of split the cost there.
So the semi trailer, we didn't have to pay for the whole thing.
Correct.
Which was a great savings. It's a great, so that was the trade-off for doing it 1 week earlier to
Correct.
fit within their time frame.
And the next one is scheduled for August 24th.
Correct. The next one is for August, and I know we're in constant contact with LRGVDC to see what other opportunities, funds will be available in order to incorporate that into our beautification as well.
And,
Where's that one gonna be?
yeah, where's that one gonna be?
That one will be at the sports complex.
It will
At
be
the
at
sports
the sports
complex?
complex.
Okay. Very good. Does anybody have any other questions for Ms. Puente? Okay, very
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you, Ms. Cindy.
Thank you.
Mr. Cano, do you have anything else on Public Works at all? Anything going on? Oh, yes, ma'am.
Sorry.
Yes, Ms. Puente.
I just wanted to inform the committee that we did have another group reach out to us. They want to do something small, very small, but also they are trying to apply for an achievement on their behalf for the Girl Scouts.
Oh,
So they
great.
did reach out today, and I just wanted to inform you we will probably be partnering in something small, but that we can also incorporate into
Oh,
our
yes.
GCA.
Yes, yes, very good. Thank you, thank you. Girl Scouts, is that same group that keeps helping us?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh,
They, the ones that have come out?
yeah.
Yes, they've come out to several of our OCSs,
LCSs,
and they qualify, so they want to do something small,
very good,
with us.
very good. Okay, thank you so much, Cindy. Okay. No other questions for Cindy? Okay, Mr. Lucano, no other questions for them?
But I
Yes?
would like to thank you, Cindy, for the wonderful presentations. And of course, Mr. Cano, we appreciate your being here with us this evening, sharing this information.
All right. We're going to move on to item 2H, Downtown Walking Tour. I need a motion to reschedule that for the August meeting, which I believe our next meeting is Tuesday, August 20th. Maybe a little walking tour right after the meeting. We'll make it short, and then we'll take a walk. So we have Ms. Olivia Ramirez making a motion to reschedule the walking tour for Tuesday, August 20th, 2019, open to the public immediately following the 5:30 Beautification Committee meeting. Do I have a second on the floor?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Robles seconds the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, being everyone is in favor, the motion passes. All right. We move on to any comments, announcements that anyone may want to share at this time?
I've got just something real quick. Some people found out that I was on this committee, and so I gave them the wrong date for Operation Clean Sweep. So I need to fix that, and I'll send them a text. The other is, Mr. Gunn, I received just a concern, and I know it probably belongs to the county, but the water drainage ditch north of town between Sugar and I guess it'd be between Sugar and the highway, and they use, it's been used as a dumping ground, and they were asking, is there any way that a no dumping sign could be put up? So it'd be somewhere around Zone 3, I think, and I told them I'd certainly bring it up, and we can find out whose jurisdiction that is.
What was the location again?
Where the drainage ditch crosses north of town between Sugar and the expressway.
Mm-hmm.
There's a neighborhood, I guess, on the north side of that, and they said that they noticed a lot of people just dump stuff there. I think it actually goes just north of the Pharr Event Center, but it'd be back west towards closer to Sugar than it is the highway.
I wish we had a map.
Well, just imagine going to the Pharr Event Center.
Yeah,
Just north of that, that's where the ditch is, but
but it goes. that
follow it
way.
back to Sugar.
Follow it back to Sugar.
But, I'll definitely look into that. I'm
Okay.
pretty sure that we can put some kind of sign or something
Okay.
there. I don't know if that will deter them. We'll at least have a sign. Maybe we could even put a tower, a PD tower there,
Okay.
a sky watch to
Mhm.
see if maybe we can catch somebody.
Good idea.
How many sky watches do we have?
We have two.
Okay,
PD, I believe, has 4.
okay.
Sometimes we borrow them so we
Okay.
can place them out, throughout certain areas that have the dumping sites.
It might be a good campaign to just start setting them up at places that are hot targets of disposal of trash.
The only thing with that is as soon as they remove them, they go out.
They're
and
back
restart.
again?
Yeah, they're back
Yeah.
again.
Well, I know in the floodway, that land that the school is using that belongs to the city, on the south end of the property, I mean, it was perfect place to drop it. And there's just a sign that says this area under video surveillance. And
Yeah, no?
no.
Well, maybe we can put something.
Yeah,
Yes.
and that camera is very well hidden.
Yeah.
Can't see it.
That'd be perfect. That'd be perfect. Anybody else have any comments, questions, announcements? Again, Mari Cruz, thank you so much for all you do to keep us on our.
Thank you.
You are
Keeping us-
appreciated.
She 2 weeks ago was ready with the minutes and already wanting agenda. She keeps me, thank you. And Mr. Cano, Ms. Puente, thank you again for all you do for us, for the city of Pharr, for Public Works. And I know that the committee, this is just a small part of everything else that you do in your daily work day, right? But thank you for your time, your energy, and the impact that you make. OCS was a lot of fun this Saturday. It was a lot of fun, just being out there and seeing how grateful the citizens in South Pharr were to have a place to take their trash. The little lady, the viejita who kept coming in her little carrito, she didn't have, it was very small, but she definitely had stuff to dispose of, and she was very grateful that it wasn't in her front yard or in the backyard, or she was bringing it
By herself.
Yes, she was bringing it by herself. So it,
3 trips?
3 trips she made. She made 3 trips. But so thank you. It was warm, it was hot, but it was a good day. It was lots of fun. So I thank you. Thank you. I noticed Ms. Vela is here. Thank you for coming, Ms. Anita Vela. You're always welcome here. So again, very appreciative for your travel to KTB. Thank you so much again. I thank our city for sending you all. I want to just remind everybody, our next meeting, God willing, is Tuesday, August 20th. We'll be here in good health,
Amen.
August 20th. And immediately following, we will also make an agenda and make the public aware that we will be having a walking tour here downtown. We're just going to walk a few blocks and take notes and see what it is we can do for our downtown area. A couple of comments. I did meet with Mr. Mario Palomo, CDBG, and he's got some ideas on trying to meet with possibly some of our landowners, property owners here in the downtown area. I will see about possibly bringing him to one of our meetings in the future. So that was quite enlightening. And again, being on the Census 2020 committee, I encourage you to reach out to your family and friends who live in the city of Pharr. It is important to be counted. It is important to be counted. It is important. So I cannot stress that. We were severely undercounted 10 years ago and 20 years ago. And all that undercounting means loss of federal funds when, especially during disasters. So, no one cares if you're a U.S. citizen or not. It is just how many people live here in this property at your address. That's all that matters. So, I'm supposed to share that with everyone from now on. In closing, yes, it is time, but I always close with a comment, and today it's kind of off the wall. One of my favorites, actually, in being that we were all former educators of some way, some shape, some form, it's the famous Aquila and the Bee quote, and it's just powerful to me anyway. So I'd like to share this with you before we close. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. Marianne Williamson, and that's the famous quote from the movie Aquila and the Bee. And without further anything other comments or questions, I will entertain a motion on the floor to adjourn this meeting.
I move that we adjourn.
Okay, Mr. Robles moves. I need a second on the floor. Ms. Olivia Ramirez seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Being that there is none, no opposition to this meeting being adjourned, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for attending. Thank you. All right. Oh, shoot.